All right. Welcome, everybody. Tonight we have a really jam-packed, exciting episode to show you or talk to you about tonight. And we're going to introduce our guests in just a second. But tonight we have Kenny Smith, who is the genius behind Star Trek First Frontier. And we're going to be talking to Kenny. So welcome,
Hey,
Kenny.
hey, nice to see you guys. We'll live long and prosper. Is that appropriate to say at the beginning? Yes, because Sarah
Yes,
did.
that's right.
That's
That's
correct.
right.
Yes,
Absolutely. And
sure.
also joining us tonight is Scott Lyttle. Now, you might not know Scott, but if you've seen First Frontier, you'll know that they have a full-scale 11-foot Enterprise. And I am as jealous as anybody in the world. So, Scott,
I guess I'm the only one that's not
maybe
jealous.
you're not because it's in your living room, but Scott,
Right.
Scott, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Glad you were able to join
Scott,
us.
how you doing, buddy?
So, a couple of things before we get started. One was you guys who are on and saw the intro. You know that we just did a little item for Glenn Miller. Glenn passed very recently, very unexpectedly, and we're going to do something for him as well at the studio. But I just really felt that we should acknowledge Glenn for his contributions to Star Trek. A lot of you know him, some of you don't. He was a friend many years. He was a friend of Gene Roddenberry's, lots of stories. He was a young guy. Gene liked him and worked with him. And he's done a lot of stuff. So we'll talk about him maybe in the coming weeks. But tonight honestly belongs to First Frontier.
Thank you.
And Kenny, if it's okay with you, I thought maybe I'd play the trailer for people who haven't seen it yet. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
So
yes, of course.
Let's see if we can do that.
Robert, I need to talk about Starfleet.
Why am I tired of talking about Starfleet? Space is a young man's game, counselor. I've done my time.
They've turned this into a retirement ceremony, are they?
I was staying on Earth for you!
You were staying on Earth for yourself.
Since the supply run,
For which you were receiving the Order of Heroism.
Which I visited a lot of funerals.
April, I want you to take the Enterprise.
Sir, I've got something over here you might want to take a look at.
You can see through it, can't you?
What's it saying?
All will die.
Like me, sister.
Looks like the device just armed itself.
Take evasive action now!
Activating warp bubble.
Get away from the window! Fire now!
These are the treasures of the human adventure. And the adventure is just beginning.
Wow,
Well,
what a trailer.
Yeah, if that doesn't get your blood boiling, everybody, I don't know what will, really. So really, I hate saying without further ado, but without further ado, I'd like to present to you Kenny Smith and Scott Lyttle.
Guys, how's it going?
Very good. Very good. I know I have a lot of questions.
Okay. You know, I was going to say real quick that the trailer, there were quite a few different shots in there that weren't perfected at the time. And now that I was watching it through, I haven't seen it since the movie's been released, and I realized how much different it was. Especially the Tellarite. That face on the Tellarite is very, very temporary in the trailer. So the one in the movies is much more permanent. It was done by Ken Stewart, who works at Industrial Light and Magic, and he actually did all the Tellarite face for us and the transporter room background. So so that was different. And then also the space station in orbit around Earth was the old saucer type one instead of the one that we use now. ICE one is the longer one. And there were a couple other things. The transporter room itself was simplistic. It was the orange background from the cage. We updated that to make it look more photorealistic. So yeah, the trailer, I want to go back and fix it now. I want to go back and put all the new effects in. New trailer.
Well,
So,
I'll tell you, I waited with a lot of anticipation. You and I spoke.
Oh yeah, we
maybe
did.
a couple of years ago.
We did.
When I realized you had the 11-foot Enterprise, and I just wanted to come out and see it, but I think it was already in dry dock.
You mean my house?
Yeah, it's dry dock.
Yeah. Right.
But so we kind of communicated
I remember.
for a little while.
I do. A little bit. It was a few times.
I was waiting with bated breath when the trailer came out.
Oh yeah.
And you said you were going to release it, and I just couldn't wait to see it. And first of all, and Dan will echo what I'm about to say. Congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know,
I appreciate that. It was a long road. It was a 5-year mission since we shot it, but even before that, there was about 7 years of development. You know, I didn't have the money to make the movie, stuff like that. I had to wait, and my first script was awful. You know, so we had, once we got with some talent, they helped me polish the script up so that it had the human element. Before I was back at the beginning when I first wrote it, it was definitely a Star Trek fans script. It was all technical. It was all about the phasers and the photons and the Enterprise. It was not the people I had left out. They were there, but they weren't like in this. So when we rewrote the script, we didn't rewrite it, but when we polished it, we added a human element to the characters, the third dimension, so that they're real people. And then even, I know you guys remember the scene of the fight in the room with his wife. That was my wife's suggestion. We watched Rocky 3, and she said, you know what you're missing? You're missing the Adrian's fight scene where she convinces him to be better. And in the movie, it wasn't the proper location for her to convince him. It wasn't his time to be better yet. So we did the argument to show his despair and his level, because obviously he's loved her and she loves him so much. So to see him be as mean to him to her as he is, it shows his depth of his sickness. And so, so that was the human element is what we added back to it, and the humor, some of the humor and stuff like that. It was definitely better when we finished the original script. If I'd have shot that, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Well, it was real TOS. Whatever you did to it, it turned out to be real TOS, no doubt. By the way,
interesting. Go ahead.
I was just going to say.
No, I was going to say that as TOS. I'm sorry. TOS is originally where I grew up. I was a Star Trek fan long before I knew what a TNG was, and but I was there the first day of TNG. I knew that. I was 16 years old. But before that, it was my entire life was only the original series. So every day at 5 o'clock, it was on for dinner, and we only had 3 channels. And one of those channels was Star Trek, and the others were news. So we're going to watch Star Trek, and then of course we got hooked. And so Star Trek was our way.
I get it. I was 12 in 1966. Don't add it up.
Oh man, well.
Don't add it up.
No, I won't.
Okay.
But I saw it in the 70s mostly. So it was, because I was born in 71. So.
Okay. I just want to mention to the folks who are tuned in, if you have any questions for Kenny or for Scott, just put them up on Facebook, and we are definitely going to read them as we can. I've got a couple of questions, or a couple of people commented already, Kenny, just asking where they can find the full-length version.
Oh, it's on YouTube, and all you do is search for Star Trek First Frontier, even if you have to search, because we're doing so well that it's popped up in people's recommended now. So, but yes, Star Trek First Frontier, and then it's in YouTube. Easy to find.
Excellent.
That one's easy. Yeah.
No, that was real easy. Now they'll get harder.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
some questions that you and I have kind of gone back and forth on. So
Okay.
you started with the James Horner score.
Yes.
And what was, why did you pick that? What was your reasoning?
Okay, so to go back to my youth, Star Trek II is it's my favorite movie in the whole world, and next to Empire Strikes Back. They share for the Star Trek and Star Wars. So, but James Horner's theme, I've always thought that Star Trek, the movies, lacked a unified theme. They did use the motion picture once over again in Star Trek V and then in the First Contact, but it was they changed themes. Unlike Star Wars or Superman, which has the same theme every time to get you going, they kind of switched after Star Trek 3. But that wasn't the reason I was going to originally have an original score, and it was the original intent. We weren't going to use the pre-existing music, but of course, with the funds being as much they are, I mean, to hire an orchestra, each member costs $15 an hour or so, and you have to have a certain amount of people if you want it to sound right. Now, some people can do perfect music on synthesizers, but I was going to approach James Horner himself. I had read that he had helped with some fan films, or at least one Star Trek fan film, and I had seen an interview where he had spoken about Star Trek II, his experience, and he really enjoyed it, and he sounded like he sounded approachable. So I was going to go approach him, and then 1 month later he passed away in his airplane. I mean, it was that fast, and so that took that off the table. I was going to ask him if maybe he could do one piece, something small that I could insert as new, but then he did pass away. So after he passed, I decided to go ahead and just use his music, and it gave me some benefits that I didn't expect. And having watched the film so many times, I know each piece of music, which emotion that's supposed to evoke. So I was able to place that where I wanted that emotion to be invoked, and I knew that Star Trek fans would know. They would get it. It would just pop in their head, as long as they didn't think about Star Trek II. As long as I could catch them in the story, then they would be immersed into that emotion that James Horner had created so long ago. When Spock passes away, I mean, that's one of the biggest emotions in all of Star Trek. So to have a little bit of that piece, but I was very, very careful to avoid anything to do with Khan. I knew Khan's theme was very specific to him, but the other themes are the Enterprise's themes. And this is the same Enterprise. I mean, refit, but it's still the same Enterprise. So those songs were, I mean, those tracks were perfectly valid to me. And then I also thought, well, I am duplicating. Will anybody get upset? And I thought, Star Trek, the original series, used the same music all the time. It was always the same. It was until each season they'd add a piece, like Spock's, Vulcan Mystic music, or in third season they had some weird wonky music, but still it was the same music over and over. And I thought, okay, well then, hey, we're just going to unify it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use this theme. It saves me the money, but it's not about that. It was more about honoring James Horner. And for the longest time, I had the dedication to him for using music. But then I changed shortly after that to Dorothy Fontana, because she's I feel like the unsung hero of Star Trek. She just molded it. She gave the human element to the original series, I feel like, which is why we're here now. So the James Horner music was an homage to him. But it gave me the second side benefit to invoke those emotions in the viewers. It worked. Those that connected, I really believe they're getting that extra feeling out of it. And that's what it's all about. So
yeah, it
Horner,
absolutely works. It's so appropriate for the scenes where you hear it. And I think
and there's one other thing. It was when I used it. Well, I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And you actually answered a question I was going to ask you later on, which was, why did you dedicate it to Dorothy Fontana? And now I know. Now I understand.
The saddest thing I had to do was I dedicated to her 4 years ago. The saddest thing I had to do was change the wording to say "in memory of." When that happened, I was hoping to have the film out before before anything, but at least she could see it. I wanted her to be honored by it. I've never met her, but I have seen so many interviews, and she seems like a gentle person. And I wish I could have met her. But we've definitely seen her legacy, because her heart is in Star Trek. I think she's like the mother of Star Trek in a lot of ways. So that's why I chose Dorothy. And once I chose her, I wasn't going to move back. She's the unsung hero. She needs some credit. That's what I felt like.
Without a doubt, and
Yeah.
you're really right about her input into Star Trek and how she kind of molded that into something a little more human. Got to give a little credit to Gene for hiring her. You know,
And that's yeah. And then adding words to the music and the theme, right?
Yeah,
Gene
right.
added his own words, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, so he gets them.
Exactly.
Gene. Gene.
So let's talk about your captain for a second,
Okay.
right? And a couple of questions that are online, but let me ask you first, because you mentioned this when we started, and you can see it in the movie, but you know, something's up with Robert April. He's not quite himself. He's unshaven throughout the entire movie. What's all that about?
Okay, so Robert, when I originally wrote the story, it was Robert April was that hero. He was always perfect. Okay, what they helped me to do when they polished him was we've thought it over, and I came up with a decision. I said, well, why don't we make him a little bit depressed? And then Keith Brooks, who helped me to rewrite the script, he helped me to polish that, and we decided that Robert April would, instead of being that gung-ho Horatio Hornblower going into running, he actually is reluctant. He wants to stay back because of something that's happened to him. And that gave him a depth. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was going to be amazing when the fans all saw him say, boy, am I tired of Starfleet. They'd never expect that from Captain April at the very beginning. I thought that was a very deep thing for him to say, and for them to see that he had an issue, a problem, which would be solved by the end of the film. But to show that he was going through what he was, and what it is I'll tell a little bit. So everybody who's watching gets a little treat. In my mind, he was on a mission just before this all takes place, and he lost 40 crew members, and he saved 10. So and that is 50. So he is being honored for the 10 he saved, and he feels like that is that's not right. He doesn't like that. That's why he doesn't want the award. He doesn't want to leave. He's coming up with any excuse not to leave Earth. That's a picture of him shaven. And if you look, he also has the Delta Trident for the first time.
Yes.
So to illustrate his sickness, I decided to have him just lose. He didn't care as much about personal things, like a little. He wouldn't grow a full beard and just let it go to the ground, but he did have stubble. Like he just didn't care as much anymore. And I did that because I wanted to show that, but I also wanted to have that last second pop when the final scene, when he walks onto the bridge. I wanted him to be clean shaven then for the first time, and have the Delta Trident for the first time, and be perfect shape. Like R2-D2 and C-3PO at the end of Star Wars. They're beat up until the end of Star Wars. At the very end, they come out and oh my gosh, they got the good treatment. And so I thought it was the same for him. He would go through his character arc. He has a hero's journey for sure. He even has the wise mentor, which is Barry Corbin. And I've that. On that note, the reason that I wrote in the wise mentor, the father in this case, is because every film I was watching with the hero's journey had that mentor. I haven't read Joseph Campbell, but I was able to glean that out of films of the character arc. And so to have him in the films today, the most famous person in those movies are usually the wise mentor. It's one, like Alec Guinness is in Star Wars, and then in Halloween it was Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance. A Karate Kid, it was Mr. Miyagi. It's that wise mentor is usually the most famous person in the film, and so I decided that I didn't want to use big names because I didn't want anybody to. I didn't want it to be to upstage, the film. I wanted people to see these people as the characters first, kind of like in Superman when it first came out. Christopher Reeve was basically unknown. So I did. Robert April went through his character arc. But he got to the end. He comes out with his clean-shaven face, and then that was perfect. That's exactly what I needed. PTSD. The reason that I mentioned that, someone had asked me about that on YouTube. The reason I use that, I'm a veteran, and my wife is she does many things for veterans, and PTSD is one of those things that is just a suffering, and it's not. I don't know that it's curable, but I'm looking. I would love for it to be cured. So what I did on that was I gave that little gift of okay, so 3 sessions, it's almost gone. So in the future, PTSD is going to be gone. You know, it can be gone just that fast. It was just a little nod to the fact that maybe PTSD would not be around so long. You know, and that's why I did that. And I thought it was nice to let the veterans know, if you're suffering, not in Star Trek, we'll get rid of everything bad by the time we get to the Enterprise.
Well, I've got a question for you. Dan Scanlon here, part of
Sure,
the studio. The only Bob April we ever saw was the retired guy in the sweater on the animated series. He's been involved in a few of the original novels. He was British.
Right.
So why did you go to this dramatically different Bob April at a younger stage in that career?
Okay, I didn't catch that he was British when I heard Jimmy Doohan's rendition. I just thought he was trying to change his voice. I love the animated series beyond anything. It's one of my favorites of all time. But
Well,
I
that's my
didn't,
memory. Sorry.
in my mind, even to this day, I can hear him in my mind. But the British, I just figured it was Jimmy Doohan changing his act. I didn't know that he was British. Then I read a little bit later because I started looking into it, and yeah, some people had said he was British, but if I don't know that it was ever stated, and then it was canon, so I didn't even think about it. That's why. That's one of those things that I probably should have done a little more research, because I didn't realize he was British at first.
Well, when you go to your next one, you'll
Robert Prowgo looks like him. Oh, go ahead.
When you go to your next one, you're going to have to give him that cardigan sweater, because that's apparently carries through his character in the books. And what the heck, it's cold in space, right?
That's true. It is cold. And you know, I did read Final Frontier way when it first was released. And but I can't remember. It was so long ago that I didn't remember it. Did they mention in that book that he was British?
That's just
Was
my
that the one
memory.
he was in?
I'm older than you,
Yeah.
and I remember watching the animated series when it came out in the 70s, having nothing better to do on a Saturday morning and loving it, as odd as it was.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I did not know there was a Star Trek animated series. You want to talk about like a treasure trove? Yeah, when I had already gone through the original series 100 times. I knew them back and forth. And then one Saturday, I was watching Nickelodeon in 1984 or 85. I was only 14 or so, and there was a commercial for Star Trek the animated series, and I said, "What?" And it had all the original voices, and I didn't know it then, but even the original writers. You know, and as a kid, I didn't think about that part. I was just, oh my gosh, this is dumb. And I thought of it as real. And it was 22 brand new episodes. So every Saturday I was sitting on my VCR recording off of Nickelodeon until I had the whole series. You know, and because of my love for the animated series is one of the reasons that I went with Robert April. He's been one of my heroes. You know, as a kid, I always thought it was interesting. It was very fascinating to me that he was given the chance for not immortality, but to relive his life. And his life was so good with Sarah that he chose not to. You know, I mean, what do you lose if you go back and live your life again? He could be a captain again, but he chose not to I guess to honor the love and the memory he had with Sarah. And I thought that was deep. And I thought if he was willing to give up or to give up you know, being young again to keep his past in his memory, I thought, man, he must have had some kind of past. What adventures does he have? And he's got the Enterprise for the first time. It's not broken, it's brand new, you know. So I thought, so he's been on my mind for a long time. And then I chose for the first film to just go to the beginning of the Enterprise. Nobody had done it before. And so that's what I pulled. He was directly out of the animated series, and I did listen to everything he said in the animated series to make sure that we added a little bit of that in the film. For instance, when he mentions that you've worked on the Constitution class, you know, that was from the animated series because he had worked on the Constitution class. And so I did stay true to the animated series because I had that to watch. I didn't think about the books though. That's the British. And then the accent. Now that you say it, it does sound British.
Well,
I'll get Robert Prowgo to do like a half British next time. Go ahead.
You talk about the brand new ship, and I'm one of the guys that helped build the Neutral Zone Studios those many years ago.
Awesome.
What did you build, and how tough was it to build those sets? I mean, I know from experience, it's tough to build that bridge.
Well, I didn't build them, so I will pass to Scott.
And actually I wasn't, I didn't build the bridge per se, for starters. That
Not
was
originally,
actually,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. That was Matt Green and Roman and Jeff.
We call him Matt Jeffries.
yeah, yeah. But it was, Jeff Dan, it was a whole bunch of other guys that came in. I came in later on and helping detail out the bridge and then doing the rest of the stuff. But from what I recall was they were able to find some plans and they laid them out. And I know Roman really took a lot of charge on that. It was Roman and his dad took a lot of charge on that.
And they were in Atlanta when they were building it. I was in Orlando, so I would come up and I would visit once every 2 months and see the new progression of it. And they would take me on a tour of the new things they had done. And I thought it was fascinating, for the sets, but then for the miniature also, Scott, we would come in 2 months and see it. So
Yeah, I know Matt's done a few videos showing some of the original the setup where they originally started building out the bridge of the Enterprise. And then once that bridge was built, and then it was moved over across town to the filming location, which was that strip mall that we were in. And then that's when I joined.
Right. We had a big. I don't remember exactly what it was before we got there, but it was big enough and it was rentable, and so we got it. It was in Marietta, Georgia, and I remember when I first walked in, they had finally built the sets for the first time for us to film over on the set location, and I was a little kid. I almost didn't leave. I'm almost probably still there now. It was the bridge of the Enterprise, and it really was. It was there. It was surreal,
Yeah,
but no, you guys, Scott did a great job, and then also the miniature. Scott was one of two that built that miniature for the most part. Am I correct, Scott?
Yes, it was.
It was you and Matt.
Primarily too. We had a number of people that came in and helped out here and there, but it was pretty much just as far as the building of the model was Matt and I were the primary guys behind it.
Well, I'm in awe of that. To build an 11-foot long starship, wow.
Yeah, we had
go ahead.
But we had a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and making sure to get all the dimensions and the look of it just right. Because there was even one point where we were doing the impulse engines, and I was like, okay, yeah, he just kind of sketched out a plan for that. And I looked, I was like, no, it's way too big. Now we need to, the angles don't work just right. So that's where Matt has a lot. Matt is very artistic, and I come from an engineering background. I actually have an engineering degree. And so somewhere between Matt's artistry and my technical aspects, fortunately, we were able to come together and basically kind of overlap and find out where our strengths were and where our weaknesses were, and fill in each other's weaknesses. And as a result, we became a really really good, strong team. And so it was even fun that during the Enterprise build, we were actually stopped. We actually had to pause on the Enterprise build because we were contacted by some filmmakers for a film called Hidden Figures. And Matt and I went ahead and made the Mercury capsules for the movie Hidden Figures. In between the time of building the model, we actually had to pause for 2 weeks on building the Enterprise model so that we could actually work on a paid project, because we really weren't getting paid much to do the Enterprise model.
Hey, Scott, look at the words that are there. You see, many people may not know that those words are on the Enterprise. The lettering is it's accurate. You went to the Smithsonian to accurize. Is that correct?
Actually, I went through a lot of the Trek BBS sites and everything else like that to really get the detail on it, because from the Smithsonian, there's no way that you can be up that close to actually be able to read everything at the Smithsonian.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you got that somewhere else. But I was fascinated that these words were there, and I had to ask Scott, "Are these really there?" He said, "Yeah." He had looked it up. So this is interesting. It was interesting.
And then
that's my living room.
Yeah. Well, in building the Enterprise, we also did a lot of history and research on it. That was most of my thing after building for a day. Then I went home and did a lot of research and history and everything else, and finding out all sorts of stuff, how Ed Marecki screwed up the restoration in 1991. But it was really kind of interesting is that the Smithsonian Restoration and Conservation finished while we were building this. And I have a brother who lives and works in Washington, D.C. So we were at a family vacation, and I stopped and spent an extra day at my brother's house. And I had to go to Smithsonian Air and Space and see the Enterprise out, because it was only about a month out. So I spent a lot of time poring over the real Enterprise to see exactly how things were done so that we could actually bring Kenny's Enterprise to that, to that same level of detail.
I vividly remember seeing it
and you
hanging
did a
in
great
a
job.
hall.
You really did.
Yes.
I vividly remember seeing it hanging in a hall
yeah.
at the Smithsonian, and it was literally at like the day it had left the original sets. One side had a cable dangling off of it and was unpainted, and then there was the detail side. So yes.
I didn't know that the undetailed side was there until the Smithsonian. Well, obviously, they didn't. I'd never heard that. So I thought maybe they had broken it or something. And then I heard, no, that's the filming side. And that makes sense. The orbit is always the same direction, except in a mirror. But other than that, yeah. So that was interesting. But they did do a great job on the Enterprise. I mean, it actually has a shuttle bay in the back because we had shuttle bay scenes. So Scott built a shuttle bay that fits inside the rear of the ship and in the shuttle bay section. And it's almost dead on to the original series. So it's crazy. We have a picture of that too, I think.
Yeah,
in there somewhere.
coming up.
Yeah, we'll pop that up then. Yeah, and but yeah, that's all Scott's creativity. I mean, these guys were off that. Now this is the shuttle bay that they built, the 124 scale, right? Or no, is this the original, Scott?
No, that's the one. That is the one inside the model.
That's the one. Okay, it's just not inserted yet. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that one is not.
That's it. I mean,
yeah, our 124.
No, it was because it's for long shots.
Right. Well,
the 124th one looks almost exactly like the original. It was perfect.
I mean, in looking at this is you're literally looking at about, I think it's about 6-7 inches across, and it was really hard and
across
to work into a tiny space like that. And most professional modelers could do that no problem. As for me, well, not a professional modeler. It's not yet.
No, but you did such a great job, and especially the Enterprise is great. Whenever it's in my living room, and when it's a great talking point for every plumber or air conditioning repairman who walks in and sees it. It's all, who the Star Trek fans are instantly. Everybody wants to take a picture with it. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have that here, and I'm also blessed to have my wife who lets me keep it in the living room, because in the garage it was too hot. I didn't want I don't want to harm this thing. I was like, no. So she agreed. She's very sweet. Scott knows her. Autumn played Yeoman Eliza Nichols in the film. She's the yeoman. That's my wife, Autumn.
Well, I've got to ask you, the real question here is, there's CGI to do all of this. You didn't have to build. Why didn't you just find a CGI artist and get her done? To my knowledge, the last time that a Connie class starship was done was the original Starship Exeter fan film where they built models.
Well, when I started this project, CG was, especially to us at home, was not really available. I mean, maybe motion pictures were trying to get it going, but even then it didn't look as realistic as now. So when I started the project, I had to have the Enterprise, and I decided that I thought to myself, I wouldn't replace William Shatner with a CG version, and the Enterprise is my favorite character. So I need to make an actual model of the ship to honor it. And so I started asking around, and Lee Stringer, who was going to do our visual effects, had an idea, but it was going to cost a lot. And so I was ready to abandon the idea when we got up close to post-production. I mean, pre-production, when we were getting there. I was gonna abandon it. But then Scott and Matt, I guess it was Matt, decided that he could build it for the price that fit into our budget, and we couldn't say no. So we went back to the original plan, and we ended up with this beautiful ship. It's gorgeous. Well, it's on YouTube. I have a little documentary. It's like 6 minutes long of the ship being filmed at Universal. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, well, yeah. Matt likes to say it was him opening his big fat mouth.
Yeah, because then he was stuck in it.
This is Star Trek. They filmed with models. You want to film with models? You don't want to use CGI. I can build you a cheaper model. Yeah,
Well, now CGI would be a great replacement now. But we went ahead with the original just to honor the ship and to be different. We wanted to set our film a little bit apart from every other. But in the end, I wasn't able to use all the shots I needed, so I did end up. It's a mixture, and I guess it's kind of like a hodgepodge. As long as your brain turns off and you can not see the differences, it's okay to me. But yeah, I wish I could have used miniature the whole time. But
yeah, it's a long story learning that filming with miniatures is an art form. And learning how to light a large scale miniature that itself is an art form. And we just
Yes.
didn't have the time to experiment and learn all the details and stuff like, you know, somebody like Doug Trumbull or something like that has experience
I
with.
know. Yeah, right.
And
Right.
so, but you know, we got it done, and
Yeah.
but it was also, you know, it was a nice portfolio piece, and we did take it to Dragon Con 2016. So we had
That's
it there.
right. That's right. Those are the pictures.
Yeah, for several people to see at Dragon Con, and we had all sorts of people. I mean, I remember Peter David coming in and just stopping and looking, pouring over it, and he just says like, "Wow." Yes. And
Takes you back. It takes you to some point in your life when you were watching. You know, when you see it, it really does. It's huge. I mean, it's really big. But when you think about it, 11 feet is a long. There you go. That's actually while they were building it. You can see the wooden pylons. So
Right, yeah,
that's Matt Green, isn't it? Is that Matt's legs?
Yeah, it's Matt. Yeah, and the dish is 5 foot
That's
across.
Matt.
So I mean, think about it.
And we all
The dish-
signed underneath before they sealed it, right, Scott? We signed
yes.
our names underneath permanently in there. So
Yep.
So yeah,
yeah.
that's the shuttle bay when it was first being built, and then you can see the rods holding up the primary hull, and Matt's legs holding him up. So yeah,
I think we have the if you want to show it, I think we actually have the video you were referring to, sort of showing the build. So let me see if I can.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. Let's
Okay,
see.
the one that Scott did is what is it called? It's called when it's not stop motion. What was it, Scott? The one you guys did with the Star Trek the Motion Picture theme. It's one frame every minute or so.
Oh, you mean
That's not
no,
this
that's
one.
not this
This
one,
is actually this is good though.
Or time
Right, but
lapse.
this is good too. Time lapse. That's man, where's my head? Thanks, Scott. That is we had to just figure out a way to have the Enterprise leave space dock, and that was one of my problems because when we pulled it out, you can see the shake, and you didn't see it as much then. But when I got home, I was looking when I was editing, and the shake is there, and I had to make some replacement CG for
You're
some
seeing,
of those shots.
seeing camera.
But
on
yeah,
that,
we were
you know.
doing everything, trying to be genius.
Yeah, that ship was
Go ahead, Scott.
bouncing all over the place. So, but yeah, we were
Yeah.
filming with a bunch of students that hadn't even been on their first job. So there weren't a lot of people that really kind of understood how to shoot miniature work and things like that. Like you saw in the video, there was 2 people pulling. Yeah, that's a no.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
don't do that. You need 1 person pulling.
No,
So-
obviously you move the camera and everything. Yeah, true. We shot that at Universal Studios Orlando on the green screen that Steven Spielberg installed, to have green screen done on. So it was everyone started piling in from that worked at the school. They have a digital animation school there, and all the students helped us to shoot that day. And Valencia Community College came over, and they donated some people, and they helped. And we had a full team. And you know what? Star Trek does that. Whenever they heard Star Trek, they would come to help because there's something about it.
Yeah, every student was thrilled to work on the project.
Well,
that's right. They were.
You guys,
right.
it's fascinating to hear you tell the stories behind the scenes here, because I don't think people understand exactly what goes into not just the making of a fan film, but the background that you have to do, the building you have to do. And I think for, people who are listening, I think this is a real education.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, there was a lot that I learned. I didn't know much of the filmmaking world. I had gone to film school, and I had learned some things, but I didn't know a lot of the technical details. And so it was learning on the job for me. And the people that were hired and came and worked, especially Moto, our first assistant director, Keith Brooks, who's unit production manager, and Scott and Matt, they're technical, the building. I learned a lot from them. As a matter of fact, editing the film afterwards basically by myself, I've learned so much about filmmaking because I know now where green screen shouldn't be, where how to in camera fix a lot of things that'll save me months of work at home. So I've learned a lot about filmmaking, and I think that I may have it now. Maybe next time it'll be so much easier for me. But they're very talented people, and they all came together because of Star Trek. Once they heard the word Star Trek, some were not fans yet. And so I gave them a list of episodes to watch in order, I would start with something serious like the Doomsday Machine and then go to the Trouble with Tribbles. I wanted to keep them in there, And episodic original series it makes it easy because it's catchy. I mean, it's amazing science fiction, well written science fiction, and so even today it stands up perfectly. You know, for anybody watching now, they get the story instantly. They're all great. Well, except for some third season episodes, but you know.
Yeah, Kenny, and the one thing I remember great, that one of my favorite memories on that was when Adam Minerovich came in to do Harry Mudd. And
that's right.
He came in not knowing anything about Star Trek or about Harry Mudd. And so I think it was might have been Keith and I kind of took charge a little bit on it too. And
I was on location that day.
I was trying to tell Adam about it. I said, okay, well, he's an intergalactic hustler and space pimp. And as soon as Adam said, I can do that. And then so we got him into the role, and then we shot that whole scene, which is in the Easter egg in the end credits. But that whole scene is so long, but it was all done in one take. And by the time it was done, I said, he had the entire cast and crew, red faced, doubled over, and trying so hard not to laugh because they didn't want to ruin the shot. But
man, I miss everything.
Perfect take.
I was on location that day, and it's not scripted. And I did not know this was something that they had done that day with Adam. He was a friend of theirs. And so when I got home, I saw it. I didn't even really know what it was, and it was there. And then I thought to myself, okay, it's a great scene, but I've decided in Star Trek First Frontier not to rely on gimmicks and not to rely on original cast members, other than I know I needed one to validate the movie at the beginning. And in this case, it was Nichelle. But so Harry Mudd coming in would have been, Okay.
That's
okay.
going to bring up my next question, because I want to talk. You've got some heavyweight actors.
Oh yeah.
In this, and you know, to get Nichelle Nichols, number one, and we've had her at the studio, so I know how she is, and she is a consummate actor. But maybe you could tell us the story of how that all came about.
Absolutely. Originally, I wrote the intro narration to be for William Shatner. And if you hear the very first word spoken is space. And I wanted that to, take the viewer back to hearing space, the final frontier. It's, beginning of every Star Trek. And in his voice, I thought it would be very interesting. So we chased him around the moons of Nibia and around the Antares Maelstrom. We never could get him. We couldn't get him. And so I was almost to write out the intro narration because I had tried for George. I thought about George. I didn't. Then it dawned on me, Nichelle's going to be at a convention this weekend close to our home. So Autumn, my wife, she called her agent, and instantly it was a yes. And so before her appearance on Saturday at the convention, she came into, that's the hotel room that you see there. And that's one of our friends' legs on the ground. And so she came over before her appearance at the convention, and she did her lines. And that was the moment that I was able to direct an original series Star Trek actor in my film. And that's one of those moments in your life that you wish you could have forever, but it's gone as soon as it started. And I wish I had it, but I gave her a Amigo Lieutenant Uhura doll that I had taken with me, and she I guess she didn't have one. I thought for sure she'd have one, but she asked for it, so I gave it to her, and it's in one of the other pictures too. But she brought something to the movie. I knew the intro narration. The reason I just said it, but the reason I did the intro narration and I needed an original series actor to do the voice is for the fans. I wanted the first thing they heard to be something they're familiar with, someone that they trust, so that they know, okay, well, at least it's not an endorsement as much, but it's almost like it is kind of a little bit of an endorsement. They are in the film before it, so it's kind of like saying this was worthy. And I needed that for the fans to know that this was real from the heart. It was real Star Trek. I wanted to make that connection, and it turned out to be. Even when we lose, we win. We couldn't get William Shatner, but her, she's perfect. I would trade to have her because it's so perfect. There's Uhura. Look at her go. She is. She's awesome. She was great. Oh, and by the way, when my two children are both half black and half white, and when my son was there with us, and when we left, he went up to her and he told her, "Thank you for what you've done to help me even be alive." And I thought, man, I had a tear in my eye when he said that, and she hugged him, and that's one of those moments too. That whole thing She is something else. She's our Star Trek princess, you know. She's wonderful.
You know, that's a great way to phrase it. We've had the opportunity to be with her several times. She was at our booth at a couple of conventions that we had in South Florida, and she came and did a film at the studio, a short a short film. And you know, you don't get a chance to. First of all, you don't really get a chance to spend time with people when they're at conventions. But when you get up close and personal and you start sharing personal stories, it just is a whole, especially for people like us, right? For me and Dan and you know, you Kenny and you Scott, who are Star Trek fans, to meet these people in real life, and they're people, and it's great.
Oh, they are. Well, the Star Trek stars are a little bit older, and I mean, you know, from the original series that I knew. I do celebrity autograph conventions also, and you know, and they're more current days, like Vampire Diaries and stuff like that. But the actors there are younger, and the original series stars are they're so down to earth compared to newer celebrities. You know, there's a little bit of an arrogance nowadays. I feel like I was, you know, working with them, it wasn't always fun with the younger people, but with the original series, anyone I've met, George Takei, I mean, he is one of the great. I mean, his laugh. He was on the very first Star Trek cruise that went on in 1987. I was able to be a snorkeling partner back then. And so it's been a long time, but I've seen him off and on over the years, and Jimmy Doohan and babysat his kids on the ship. You know. Gosh, Walter, it's just been a great life for me going through Star Trek conventions. You just mentioned them, and there was one man, Joe Motes, who did Star Trek conventions in Florida for 30 years, and he did the first Star Trek cruises. And through him, I was able to be that fly on the wall, always in the back seat when he'd pick up the celebrity from the airport and listening to the happenings on set as they were telling Joe what happened that day. And I mean, I've got so much knowledge in my head, I think I need to write it down. So, because as you said, Star Trek fans want all that background. I knew I did. They want the background stuff and the behind the scenes stuff. So when I was on set, most of the time when I wasn't, you know, needed to direct a certain scene, I'd let Keith direct it. And I would take my phone, my camera phone, and I had thousands of videos and pictures of the behind the scenes stuff that I haven't done anything with yet. They're, you know, they're all on my computer. And it's just stuff like our meetings at the, we would have a company meeting before we would shoot each day. And Keith would lead it, and we would have games. And he would tell us the new games for the day. And one of those games was Woody is coming. And if he yells that, everybody has to fall on the floor. That's, you know, that does slow down production a little bit. But hey, it was fun. And, you know, everybody had a great time. And Paul Telfer, when he left, he played McCain. And he's actually on Days of Our Lives. He played young, I think, Hercules, I think, at one point. He's one of the actors from Vampire Diaries, which is where I met him. And he said it was the funnest set, or not the funnest, but the most laid back set he's ever been on. And I thought that was a real compliment. I really did. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone on set. They came for the love of Star Trek. And so they were always friendly, and nobody wanted to break that. Nobody wanted to be, you know, the one that was not nice on set. And we turned into a family, I think.
Well, you talk about how friendly they are. I had the honor of working on Star Trek Continues, and I also worked with some of the great actors who came in. You had some pretty serious acting talent in this. I mean, anybody who spent time on a set can tell these people knew what they were doing, and 2 or 3 of those faces are very familiar to me. So how did you snag the great acting talent like the guy right behind me on the screen here?
Barry. Okay, so I just mentioned that I do Star Trek. I mean, not Star Trek. I did Star Trek conventions way back, but the current ones now. And the one that I was involved with at the time was One Tree Hill, and Barry played the coach. He was the wise mentor on One Tree Hill. And so coming to my conventions, he became like my grandpa. We click and we get along so well. And I'd see him every 6 months. You know, we did 11 of those conventions. So when I was doing Star Trek First Frontier and I knew I needed that wise wizard and I wanted him to be someone super famous, well, Barry, I mean, he's been in every movie ever made. You know, he's and especially War Games is my favorite, you know, but I asked him to do it and he instantly said yes also. And so he flew in and there he was. For the others, like Paul Telfer was on the Vampire Diaries. And so he was a guest at my convention. So I had met him that way, and he's huge. So I mean, how was it? If you're going to have a security, chief, he's big. I was perfect, and he said yes right away. And then Mark Ashworth is the breakaway star. Is that right, Scott? I mean, he was on. He was already an actor, but after we shot our scenes, he went on to be in a one-on-one scene with Denzel Washington. In the it was the one about Magnificent Seven. So he was in the most important scene of the movie, in my opinion, which is when you're about to have a battle. Gandalf called it the deep breath before the plunge. It's that scene where you're composing yourself and you're talking and figuring things out. And Mark Ashworth had that scene with Denzel on a balcony before the big battle the next day. And I thought, wow, Mark's really taken off. But now he's on Stargirl as a named DC Universe character. Is that right, Scott? Have you seen it, Scott?
Yes. Oh, yes. I've watched it heavily. And
Yeah.
he is Sir Justin, who is a DC character who has been around since the 80s. And
there's Barry. And if you look on Barry's neck, he has dog tags. Those dog tags are these right here. And those are my father's dog tags. My father passed away when I was 6. And these are his military dog tags. So I placed them on Barry in the film. You can barely see them. I made it so they didn't come out and be prominent, but they're hidden a little bit behind his lapel. So those are my dog tags right there. My dad's dog.
That's
tag.
it.
And
That's
Barry.
very
He's
cool.
like a grandpa.
That's very cool. That's very
Thanks.
cool.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about. I know you've got the 11-foot model, but there do seem to be some visual effects that you use. I think we all need them.
CG.
Who did you task to do some of that stuff?
Originally, at the very beginning of the film, long before I met anybody that we worked with now, was a friend of mine. His name was Lee Stringer, and he worked on visual effects. He's a visual effects. He created the Firefly. I mean, the Serenity on Firefly. He created the Galactica for the new Battlestar Galactica. He's that good. He's amazing. But once we started making the film, once we got it shot, he was unavailable, and so we were stuck without visual effects, and that was a big deal because I think 99% of this movie, each frame needs touching for visual effects. It's a Star Trek movie, So we were kind of in a hole, and then I had the idea to release it with my animatics, which are as good as I could get them, but they're 2-dimensional. They're charming, but they're not. You're not going to be immersive. You're going to know that that's a little animation going by. And I decided to, if I can't find a visual effects artist, and it was taking a while, I was going to release it with the animatics and then make it a project for the world. If anyone's a visual effects artist and you want your shot to be included, then hey, I'll do that if you want some exposure or whatever for a re-release of Everything Amazing. But as I was about to do that, I got an email on YouTube and I looked, and it was from a guy named Ken Stewart, and I clicked off of it. I said, oh my gosh, I've already gone through this where I trained someone what I need, because it's kind of a training, because they know what they're doing, but they didn't know what I needed from Star Trek. So I'd go through the whole process, and then they weren't as good as I thought they were, or they weren't available. And then I would start over. And then, so when Ken Stewart approached, he sent me the email, I just clicked off of it. Then I thought in my mind, and I thought to myself, what if he was the one? And I clicked off of it. So I went back and I read, and he had included a link that I didn't click. And I clicked it. He didn't say much. He just said, hey, I can help with your visual effects. And if you want me to, I can make it look substantially better. And he said, click this link to see my resume. And I clicked it. And it was Thor Ragnarok he's worked on. And it was, Scott, what else? He worked on? He worked on Marvel movies. He works at Industrial Light and Magic and Weta, which is Peter Jackson's for the Lord of the Rings. And I was blown away. I thought, well, if he can do the whole movie, but his level, the whole movie by himself would have taken forever. So as we were progressing, he was helping, but he wasn't as available as I needed. And I was, once again, I didn't have the visual effects that I needed, an artist. And Alec Peters, who does Axanar, he and I had talked, and I had sets, these sets that they're in the film, and I had placed them in storage. And the storage was $700 a month. And I was thinking to myself, okay, look, it's been 3 years and the movie's not out. I was holding on to them, and maybe one day they're officially used sets in Star Trek, and maybe I can make some money back from making the movie. But it was turning into just going out the other way. So Alec, he took the sets off my hands, and he he set them up. I believe they're at his studio now. And so when he did that, I said, listen, you can have the sets for free. Just give me a visual effects artist. And he suggested Sam Cockings. And that's when I met Sam Cockings. And Sam is that guy who, when you have a Star Trek film that's stalled, he gets it back on track and makes it happen. And he did. I mean, he was already so knowledgeable in Star Trek, in the technical details of Star Trek especially, that I didn't have to tell him what I needed. He knew. And man, oh, that was a relief. And so once that started, we were able to collaborate off and on. Very minor notes. He would send me his concept based on my animatic, very little notes back, and then he'd send it back perfect. It was so fast. And he did 97 shots, I believe, for the film, 97 total in about 6 months. So Sam Cockings is he did an amazing job, and he did exactly what I asked, and he did it perfectly. I think that he knows Star Trek very, very well. He does his own fan film now, and it's on YouTube. Everybody should go look at it. Just look up his name, Sam Cockings.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Sam for maybe 5 or 6 years, and he helped me on my very first film that I did, Starship Republic. And I still look at it today and I go, but Sam Sam's an interesting guy, because he'll send you the VFX, and you look at it and you go, wow, this is really good. This is Star Trek. This is great. Right. And then he says, well, did you catch all the nuances? And you go back and you have to watch it 2 or 3 more times, and the lights are going out and the phasers are firing, and it's all going on in 3 seconds. But he is the guy. I'm glad that you found Sam, because it was meant to be. It was meant to be. Yeah. So staying with that just for a little bit. So you have an Enterprise flyby at the beginning of the film.
Oh yeah. Right.
So what was your reasoning to start with that?
This was one of the toughest decisions I had to make. And in the intro, it's the music is playing, and James Horner left a really long section there with beautiful music waiting for the credits to come up. And I had that spot, but I was torn, because I wanted to leave it because it's very theatrical. It gets you ready for the movie. And I didn't want to mess with it and add anything to it. But then I thought, I need the Enterprise, the original Enterprise. I need it in this film. And in the cage, when it first starts, the Enterprise does that double flyby twice. So I pulled it right out. I didn't use the new CG version, the remastered. I got the original, photos of the miniature from the cage. And then I, cut it out, rotoscoped it out, and did my best to get it on there. But it doesn't look perfect, but it is the Enterprise, the actual Enterprise, making, right at the beginning of the movie to intro us to the movie. So I decided to leave it because of that, because it was the Enterprise. And I was like, well, I don't care what anybody thinks. I like it. No, but it is a little bit cheesy, but it was, because it doesn't match 100%, but it's the Enterprise.
Without a doubt. You can't. Yeah. There's something about Star Trek. You look at the Enterprise, you know exactly what it is. You look at a phaser, it's a phaser, it's a communicator.
Oh yeah.
So I'm really brilliant to put it right in the beginning next to the theme.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I made the right decision then.
Well, I think you made the right decision, but
thank you. That's good. That's good. I do.
And
too.
We're getting a lot of comments, and they're coming through so fast I can't keep up with them. So,
hey, have at it.
So you know what?
I'm here as long as you are.
But that's great. Perfect. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other characters. So you created this character, Ensign Brooks, and does he come across? Is it my imagination, or is he sort of another Wesley Crusher?
Well, of course he is similar to Wesley Crusher, and I guess because that, in my mind, that character has to be there. He represents the young ensign who's just joining Starfleet. But I didn't want to make him a Mary Sue. I didn't want him to just be able to do everything right away. But I did want him to be enthusiastic and to bump into himself because he's so enthusiastic. And so I guess he is similar to Wesley in the fact that he's young and that he's smart, but he definitely has the flaws that he has, especially right at the beginning. Wesley was pretty perfect right at the beginning, and then he had flaws later. But Brooks is he's flawed right away. He is slapped right in the face with deep space, what it's all about, when he loses his captain and mentor, and then he sees the Endeavour explosion. He knows that happens, and so space is now scary. It went from exciting to scary all that fast. But then that gave me the chance to have Robert April repeat what he had heard, his encouraging words from his father earlier in the film, and give them to him in the turbolift. If you look at the turbolift scene at the end, it is the three characters in the movie that are on the journey to find what, that space exploration. And Robert April, and he was sick, and he had almost gotten better at this point, and then it was just at the end after that he got better, and he was the one giving the encouraging words to Brooks, who was finding his place. And then Lyra, who the Andorian, we find out just after that scene that she's giving up royalty for this. It's not just space exploration is so deep in her blood that she's going to cut off her mother. And you can tell her mother's used to getting her way. So for her to do that was a major step. So those are the three characters that had the journey, and they had found, and you can see her look in the turbolift. She accepts what even though Robert's not speaking to her, she's listening to what he's saying. And, the stars are not that far for her either. And so she even repeats it, not that far after she talks to her mother. So those are the three characters that went through the journey. And Brooks is, he was awesome. Brandon Thame Wilson played him, and he's amazing. And then the Brianna Ferris played Lyra, and she was perfect with. Matt did the makeup for that. Matt Green, he made the little antennae, and he painted her blue with was it airbrush on set. I have a lot of footage of that too. The first time. But just to speak about the Lyra character. She was originally going to be a Cation from the animated series. You remember Umres? I wrote a scene where Umres, it's not Umres is there, but she's a kitten, and her mother is going to work on the Enterprise, as the communications officer, and her name was Umris. I remember that very well. But the problem was, I couldn't realistically make someone into a cat person. I didn't think I could. And I had to change it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go with an alien race, I believe my memory is correct that the 4 founding members of the Federation, I don't know if Enterprise changed this, were Earth and Vulcan and then Tellar and Andorian. And so as an Andorian, and they're my favorites, I love Andorians, and the animated series, they're represented there too. So I decided, well, we'll go to Andorian, and that was, I'm glad we did, but I would like to have a Cation eventually. So, but about her royalty, someone had asked me, how would she have gone through Starfleet and all this time, and gotten to the rank of lieutenant, and not have her mom, demanding her come back? Well, the story in my head was this, and I haven't fleshed this out, but this is what it was. She is one of 3. She's the middle triplet. Okay, you can tell on the hologram that she has a younger sister it's actually played by her. So they're twins. But what's not known is that she had an older sister who was going to take royalty on Andoria, which relieved her of the duty. And her mom was, if you're not the one the mom needs, she's arrogant. She didn't really care as much. But then the older sister passed away just recently, just before this, and the mom was now demanding that she come back, and because she's now the oldest, and take her place as the royalty, and she didn't want to do it. So that's the little bit of the story behind her there. So she's our alien.
Yeah, she sure is.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She sure is. So a couple of other characters too. You've got a Tellarite captain, Jelland, right?
Yeah, Jelland. Yes, Keith Brooks had asked to play the captain of the Constitution, and he had given me some sad news that he had just had cancer, and he on set he had just learned that he had cancer, and he didn't think he had much time to live, and he asked if I would allow him to play the captain of the Constitution, and I said, man, I didn't even think twice. I said, absolutely, go play it, But then when I was watching it, and I was thinking, well. And Keith knows I'm not in the greatest shape either, but it was going to be one of those things where the fans see it and they go, well, that might not be a captain. And I thought, well, he's still going to be the captain. We shot it and that's where it is. And I'm happy with it. But then it dawned on me, Tellarite. He already has almost all of it. All we had to do was the facial overlay. And so Ken Stewart did that for him. And I think it was a big surprise. Keith knew it was coming, but he had not seen it until he watched the movie, and he loves it. Keith's one of my best friends. There he is. That's actually Ken Stewart's work. And that story, just real quick, when I was going to release September 8th, these shots were not finished on September 7th. And we had to go to color correction, to get it finished and uploaded to YouTube for the next day. And so Ken Stewart, he burned the midnight oil for me, and he got I think it's 7 shots of Keith as a Tellurite turned into me that afternoon of the September 8th, the last possible second. And we uploaded the movie, and it finished uploading the minute 8:30 hit, and my finger was on the button. I mean, it was divine intervention. And the funny thing is, when I first got the concept back, the person who was color correcting had missed one shot of Keith as a Tellurite. So when you first see him, he's a human, and then the rest of the film, he's a Tellurite on accident. So we had to fix that. That was what caused us to, the last second, have to upload the movie and get it on time. But that I think it made it perfect, and I haven't heard one single thing except awesomeness. People love seeing the original series Aliens, and it made sense to me because Tellar was one of the original founding members of the Federation. He could be there. The captains of the ship, Collins and Jellin, they're not the permanent captains. Most ships have a shakedown captain that will take it out and take care of it just before. And that was what Collins was. He wasn't meant to be the permanent captain of the Enterprise. He was only a placeholder. He was actually a friend of Roberts, and he was trying to get him to take the ship. So he was the temporary captain in First Frontier. And then Robert obviously took it over by the end. But Keith, yeah, he did a great job. And if you look at those patches right there, maybe you can pop it back up.
Yeah.
This is that patch. And this was created by Paul Frensley, he is that guy who lives in his parents' basement and only watches Star Trek. I mean, he watches every science fiction show, but he knows everything about Star Trek. And so he was my continuity director. And I asked him, I said, we had never seen a Constitution patch. So if he can make one for me, I'd be happy. And so he decided that since it's the Constitution, we would go with like the Federation banner from the Franz Joseph, technical manual. And he used that general shape and then put the star in it. I thought that was perfect. That was perfect. So that's that. And I'm showing you these. This is, you guys know what this is, right? This is the Starfleet patch, right? The generic star, like if you're not on a ship, right? This is the star symbol. If you see it on all of the Commodores whenever you go to a star base. So this is a piece of continuity that is accurate, and someone had asked me about that on YouTube, so that's why I wanted to say that was good. And then I've got another prop. You guys want to see it? Look at this. All right, this is the phaser rifle that Paul Telfer is holding. So this it's perfect. I decided to go with the black look instead of because we could retcon, or we didn't actually retcon because we were 15 years before Kirk. We could retro invent things. We could actually backwards engineer things maybe a little bit and change things a little bit. It helped us a lot because we had to be very creative. For instance, Scott's Enterprise, the saucer, the navigational deflector is a little bit larger than the studio miniature and the pilot version, and the bridge is taller on that one. But we did that because we figured that things shrink, technology shrinks as time goes by, which is why the pilot to the production Enterprise had a smaller dish, and so we went backwards, and it was big. It was a little bit larger, just to to make it a little bit interesting, 3-dimensional. We didn't want to copy everything. Go ahead, Scott. Yeah,
we basically reverse engineered it so that
right.
Because as we all know in the history, when the first dish was out for the cage, it got lost. They had to make a new dish for the second pilot, and it was a little smaller. And so over time, you've seen the dish, kind of decrease in size in the chronology of the Enterprise. We basically reversed it and made it a little bit larger. And that was kind of, one of the things that we did. And so a number of other things. And if you even notice, we even, the font used for the cage version, that's the old USAF Amarillo font, which it's actually a little different when you get to the second series. It's it is. The number 7 has a little hook on it at the beginning. There's a few differences in the font. It looks similar, but it's definitely different. Yeah, the big one is the number 1. That's the easy one to tell. One will have a
Right,
little
right.
serif. It's like the hook on it. They call it a serif.
That's right, the one. So, but our shuttlecraft, if anyone noticed, our shuttlecraft has the little spikes on the Bassard collectors. It has the spikes on it to match the Enterprise. Yeah, the ram scoop. And so the reason for that was because I figured that if the Enterprise originally had the spikes on it, that they weren't cosmetic. Why would they add that for no reason? That they had to have a purpose. And if they had a purpose on those nacelles, then they would also have a purpose on the smaller nacelles. And it also is a cool little, throwback to, and people have noticed the little spikes on it. It is kind of cool.
All right, hang on. I'm bringing up a picture of
Okay.
the shuttlecraft.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, Scott built that. Didn't you build that, Scott, or is that you?
Matt now built it. I did the decals for it.
Oh, okay. And the Sagan, Carl Sagan's my hero. We have just watched Contact. He's an awesome guy. I mean, he's worthy of a shuttlecraft name, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson, we gave the second one to, because I kind of figured I wanted somebody current, somebody who's alive now who could get a kick out of it, and he is the protege of Carl Sagan, and I thought maybe he would enjoy it. So perfect naming.
Perfect naming.
I wouldn't change
Perfect naming. Well, with all of the characters and a lot of the things you just said, it's almost as if, aside from TOS as a series,
right.
It's like you paid homage to Journey to Babel, because those same characters in your story are in Journey to Babel.
Right.
I think,
right.
So it's kind of interesting that
Tellarite and then Dorian, they, and then of course humans. The only aliens that we were missing from the founding members were the Vulcans. The reason I chose not to was because they're used a lot. And once again, I was trying to make my own movie and let it stand on its own legs. And I didn't want to have an appearance by Sulu's grandfather, played by George Takei. I didn't want to do those kind of things where it's fun for fans, sure, but I wanted to make it a real film as much as I could. I started out with the intention of make it like a feature film that looks like a film in the movies. I mean, we fell a little short because of coronavirus. It really took a lot of funds away from it to live. Everybody's going through that. And then, so I decided, even if it's a little bit lacking, people need something positive. This world is ugly right now. And Star Trek fans are the best people in the world, and I'm honored to be one of them. And so I decided it's perfect enough for me. I like it, and there are a few deficiencies, and there are a couple of things that are in it that weren't in it before, because color correction. When it went to color correction, it's another person with a computer, and some glitches occurred that I didn't have time to fix, because it was we were at the last second. Once I got the color corrected version back, it was what had to go. So, for instance, if you see Lyra when she's talking to her mother, there's a scene, when you see the view screen, there's the box above it that shows the same view screen, like it's on accident. And that's because my color corrected artist, he was using that as a guide for how to make them, and he didn't turn them off. So they're there, but I haven't heard anyone say anything about it. It's so obvious to me. When I saw it, I almost saw it. I was like, no, but nobody has said anything. So I guess I just think they're so into it that they didn't want to, criticize it. Maybe it was, that's good though.
Well, there's an interesting remark, right? So we've done a lot of, walkthroughs of our studio, and Vic Manana, Vic does a lot of them. Vic right?
He does.
So one of the things that he says almost at the outset of the walkthrough to the fans that are there to see it is that the Enterprise is not the story. The Enterprise is the background. Right. And when you see it for 7 seconds, you're like, wow, look at that. And then it's about the story. And I feel yours follows that same methodology. You see it, you love it, you know what it's going to be, but then you lose track of it. You're really looking at the characters and the story. And I think in that respect,
I think that's called verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude.
Thank you. Verisimilitude as a word that I learned from Richard Donner. He was shooting Superman, and he had this big poster made that said verisimilitude, and he hung it over his office in the Superman offices. And so I went and looked up the word. I didn't know at the time, and it's the immersion into a movie where you're lost into it. So my keyword in my head, my thing that I did not want to do was break verisimilitude for fans. And if you see my two-dimensional images going by, it's gone. If you see green screen, is because you go, oh yeah, that's right, this is a movie. And I just didn't want that to happen. But we were able to accomplish get rid of most of the anything that would detract. I think we got most of it. And Sam did such a good job on the CG that, I love it. I think it's great. And he did such a good job of helping me to have them merge together. So yeah, we got a beautiful movie as far as I'm concerned. I think it's really pretty. And the people who are connecting with it are able to look past those deficiencies. I was counting on this from Star Trek fans. I was counting on this, that they have the ability to see outside the box, see what you intended, and then judge it based on that rather than, the actual technical difficulties I had. So, and they did not let me down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and neither should they have.
They're perfect. I love Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything you could say more than that about all of us. All of us.
We're like
we
a family.
Are a breed unto ourselves.
Yep.
So you mentioned, you've seen a couple of deficiencies and you've done a lot of correction. I know that you and I had we had some conversation about the audio.
Oh, right.
And sometimes it's, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. I know you said you were looking at maybe fixing that and putting out another version. How do you feel about that?
The audio, okay, I spent so much time teaching myself about visual effects that the audio, I was relying on someone else to do, a friend who had done movies before. He had mixed movies before, is what he had said. And so we were working on it at the last minute. He was in my collectibles room right here behind me. He was in here working feverishly the night and day before we released to mix the audio. And he sent me a copy of it, and I listened to it on my headphones, and I didn't know how to look at levels and things, and I heard every word I thought, and I thought, okay, that's it. And we just didn't have time to finish it or fix it. Once I found out, once the comments started coming in, and that is the number one thing that they have mentioned is the audio, and I do know it. I mean, I know it well. We had originally had an offer from Valencia Community College. They have a Dolby Atmos studio they just built. And as a project for their students, they were going to mix our audio in Dolby Atmos. I mean, that's 17.1 surround sound. That was originally, but the visual effects took so long to do that I lost that contact. So we were kind of stuck at the end, and we got I guess you can hear everything. And I did add the subtitles. But yeah, I know now the deficiency in audio. You can stop telling me in the comments about the audio. It's fine. We got it. I know. And so we're going to remix it. We're remixing it now. As a matter of fact, Keith Brooks is remixing it. And another person named Ben, he offered to help. And so we're doing the audio again. We're going to remix it and have a good version. But I'm kind of torn because I don't want to lose all my views on YouTube. And so I was hoping to add a track to it, but you can't do it. So I may just add a link to the new version of the movie. And what I'm planning to do is have a special edition, maybe by January or February. And it depends on how long it takes them to do the audio. And then I'm going to add a couple of scenes that I cut. And I have a new mid-credit stinger. So there'll be 2 stingers, not just the one with Harry Mudd, but there'll be another one. And so I think everybody's going to like that one. I'm not going to tell what it was. It's very cool, though. So it's going to be cool to have the special.
Okay. I hope you don't mind me asking, and I will not make a comment.
No, not at all. I want to tell. I want to explain. Trust me.
Okay.
I want people to know.
So let's talk about Harry, right? What was your, I mean, it's almost like a Marvel movie where when you get to the end, there's a bonus, some bonus.
That was the inspiration for that. The end credit stinger, of course, we're all seeing Marvel movies. And I thought, well, it came about like this. They shot that. I was on location that day, and they had their friend Adam come in, and it wasn't in the script. So I didn't even know. They did it for fun. They had the sets all set up and everything. And so when I saw the footage, I thought to myself, okay, I don't want to rely on the gimmicks. I want so Harry, appearing, and I thought it was a little coincidental that he was showing up at Robert April's ceremony, he's just popping in. And I thought, okay, that's almost a gimmick. It's fun, and I want to keep it, but I decided the best place to put that. Why don't I put it at the end of the credits as like fun? And then I can always say, well, it wasn't really part of the movie. If I wanted to, I could say that. But then they could still have the fun. It was like winning both ways. But there's another thing to that scene, and that is the lady that he's talking to in the black. Her name is Ruthie. And she was a friend from my conventions. And when I first originally did my a Kickstarter, which I canceled, she purchased one of the extra rolls on it, even though we were friends and I would have given it to her free. But she just wanted to support me. And once I canceled the Kickstarter, I refunded her. But she came on set that day and she did that scene. Well, she had cancer, terminal cancer, and she passed away 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago. And she didn't make it to the end with us. And so to have her say the final word in the movie, that felt good to me. And I even listed her in the credits as survivor #1. Her friend Paula is with her. It's in the scene. Paula doesn't speak, but she's really cool. But they played off each other perfectly, I thought. And Harry was even shot down by her right at the end. So Ruthie, I used to send Ruthie every new version of every new edit of the movie once per weekend almost, and she'd have her family come in and watch it. So she saw it a bunch of times, just not the finished version. So, but Harry's there. He's awesome. Adam Minorovich, he's a good actor. He's really good actor. He was in The Walking Dead, and we're in Atlanta, so a lot of people are just around. And so when I got home and I saw it, I thought, well, I got to use it, and there it is. And the people really love it too. And no one has said, oh, it's corny that Harry's there. They've only said that they love it.
Well,
it sounds like you need a director's cut.
It
sounds like you need to do a director's cut in January, and there's your extra footage.
That's what it'll be, special edition.
Director's cut.
That'd be fun to call it that too. Like James, I feel like James Cameron now. I've got my director's cut. But I will do that. I will release the special edition with some scenes. So
very cool, very cool. So I wanted to ask you about your aliens. Now I'm going to pronounce it wrong. What is it? Sarin?
Okay.
Sarin? Sarin. And I read somewhere about they had stolen technology. And so what was your inspiration? What was your motivation behind those characters?
The stolen technology was a later development that we came up with, so we could explain why they had these ships and things. They just took them. They didn't build them, and that it made more sense that way. But originally, I had to have an alien. I wanted it to be something that had never been seen, and I'm a fan of the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits, and so I thought to myself, I gotta go back to the bug-eyed monsters, the BIMs. And I thought, that just for fun, they're not too technical. They're not complicated. I didn't add anything complicated. They just do this one thing, and then you got to, save your life by killing them. But this costume was designed by Matt. It was actually a Halloween costume he had built. And it has more to it. I took some off and changed some, but it's mostly this, and it looks similar to that. And he brought it in, and I told him he had created it for his own Halloween costume. And he said, well, I have this. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. And we added the red eyes to it. And so they became the monsters. Lex Lewis, who plays the monster, the creature, he is a pro wrestler. He was a wrestler. And he's like 300 pounds. He's huge, 6'6" or so. And but the thing about the mask was it was so hot on set that we could shoot for maybe a few minutes, and we'd have to remove the mask real fast because he really couldn't breathe in it too well. But it was great. I like the bug-eyed monsters. I think they're awesome. They're corny a little bit, but they're definitely creepy. And so that's the inspiration for the Sarin. And the name Sarin, I was trying to come up with something that I wanted it to be a name that was something the opposite of what they are. And since they're crazy murderers types, serenity, I had heard that, and serene, the word serene means peaceful. And so I just, as a play on that word, serene.
Cool. It's very retro also, almost 40s and 50s, the old serials.
Right. I love them.
So it's very cool that it's kind of a throwback to that. You've picked a lot of different genres to throw into Star Trek, and that's great.
That's what it's all about. I mean, Star Trek is about creativity, I think, and you know they did play well. It was really fun. I loved creating the monsters. But we not only had to create them though, we had to create their world, their ship, and the technology they used and stuff. And it came out really well. So I'm happy with them. I'm not really intending to bring them back. And maybe, you know, like if I did 10 starter, maybe they'd make an appearance somewhere. But no, they're not meant to be long term. They were just meant for this story to be a catalyst for Robert April to come back to himself, to have something to solve.
Got it. Well, it's again, you know, you put it all together and it's just terrific. So
thank you.
Maybe a last question for you, if I could ask it.
Okay,
a couple of people have written in with a question that I had, and having, you know, doing some of my own films and having lived through the whole CBS guideline changes.
Oh yeah, they came out after us. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
they came out after you. So
Yeah.
you started this
Right,
maybe more than 5 years ago, before the guidelines.
Right.
You've used Star Trek music.
Yeah.
You've used SAG actors. You've used Trek actors.
I think we broke them all.
You might have broken them all, but
Right.
have you heard it? I personally, I think CBS has, and I probably get in trouble for saying this, but I think CBS has kind of turned a blind eye to fan films now with this success.
You do think that? You think to all fan films?
I think so, because I see more current fan films now breaking the guidelines.
Yeah.
And I think with the success of Discovery and Picard, and they're coming out with other ones, Strange New Worlds. I don't know that they've turned a blind eye. I think that's the wrong way to say it.
No, they're watching. They're definitely watching.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But obviously you haven't gotten any repercussions. You haven't, you know.
No.
Good.
No. With the original trailer, when I launched the trailer, they sent me a letter. This is 2 or 3 years ago. The trailer you just watched was a reimagining. I did 2019, and that fixed the date. But before that, it was 2017. And that trailer, when I posted on YouTube, I got an email from CBS Legal, and I ignored it. And I left it up, and it's still up today. I didn't ignore it because I have no respect or anything. It was just, I didn't want to remove it. I didn't want the fans to see that we were, you know, that we were victims. Like we were having something taken from us. It didn't cost them anything, and I didn't make any money. Everything I spent on my own. So that's what I put at the beginning of Star Trek First Frontier. You can read it in the YouTube description. It says, hopefully the powers that be will allow you to enjoy this. You know, it's a compliment that we're making. Sorry, if we're doing anything, we're adding value to Star Trek, the name. You know, we're certainly not hurting it. And our films aren't nearly the quality, especially not mine. It's nearly the quality that they can make. I think they're relying on that quality, because some of the stories are a little bit lacking. It's more of the visual effects now for them. And I think that they've kindly decided to allow us to exist, and that's really good for the fans. If those who like it, they can still watch it. And I have people who have. This is really touching. Someone emailed me not too long ago, and they said that the last movie that a father watched with his son before the father passed away from something he's sick was Star Trek First Frontier. So I'm now making the special edition so I can change the credits at the end, and I'm going to add the two of them in the credits, and then it'll immortalize that for the son he's only 9, and he can as every time he watches this movie, he'll always see his dad's name and his name. And he'll always remember that was the last movie that they watched together. So, and I'm going to do that same thing for you with Glenn Miller. I'm going to give him a little payment, homage in the credits for you guys.
And that's great. And that's very admirable of you, because
we're all here for each other.
Well, you've got that situation, but you acknowledge it. You know, you mentioned Glenn,
of course,
you mentioned, the father and son, you mentioned the woman who had terminal cancer, and you've brought them into the Star Trek world, and you've actually made them part of, we'll call it canon. They're part of canon.
I hope so. The biggest compliment I could get, if someone did say that we see this as canon, but they're fans saying it, but still, to have someone who's watched it say we accept this as canon. That's a big compliment. I mean, that's really good. That means that my internal Star Trek compass is working, because that's all I relied on to make the film. Whenever I had a question, I'd look into myself and say, you know, what feels right, you know. And so that's what I used to get through it. And I think we ended up with a really good product. I think we hit Star Trek as best as I can do. I think I did, you know. So I think they're enjoying it.
I agree. I think you've done
Thanks,
a great
Ray.
job. I played a little, and I was trying to get it up before you finished talking. And
Oh, go ahead. No,
failed
get it. Go
miserably.
ahead. Do your thing.
But I have that little snippet that I wanted to show of Glenn.
Go ahead.
And
Go ahead. Yes,
I just
absolutely.
wanted a couple of seconds. I just want
There's
people
Glenn.
to know who he was. I said to somebody today, I haven't spoken to him in the past and becoming a friend. If he was your friend, he was a great friend. If he was your enemy, he was Harlan Ellison.
Oh no.
You know.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, so I appreciate you saying that, and
Sure,
gave
absolutely.
me an opportunity to play that again.
To remember your friend.
So, any last words? Scott had dropped off, but he's coming back.
Scott came back. Look at him go.
Look at him go. Scott came back. He must.
Let me see if Scott has.
Is he married? Maybe
his phone died. No, his phone died. That's what
okay.
he sent me a message, and I just.
All right. Okay. Well, he's coming back. I thought maybe he had a fight with his wife or something like that.
No, with his phone.
So we'll get him back on. But
okay,
you know, anything that we haven't talked about, anything you'd like to mention? Is there going to be a Star Trek Second Frontier?
Well, you know, this one tapped me out completely, you know, for fun. If I were to do a second one, I would rather do one, you know, officially, and maybe I don't know. I was always thinking maybe a web series. I'd heard that CBS was maybe thinking about selling Star Trek, and maybe Netflix would be a buyer. Netflix is hungry for content. So they would be open to lots of things, maybe, you know, and hopefully this would be a pilot for that. But I never intended it to do anything other than to just be a part of Star Trek. And if anything comes from that, that would be fine. I would be happy with that. But I would like to say to the fans who are watching it and supporting, you guys are the greatest. I mean, you're exactly who I knew you were all the years that I've gone to conventions. All of my friends are Star Trek fans, I think, you know, and they're very encouraging. And there's only a few knuckleheads that come on and say something like, you should never make another movie again. I'm Teflon when it comes to that. They're not going to get through. Say it all you want to. I'll just block you. If you say something intelligent and you give me some criticism that I can, you know, take and maybe grow from, no problem. I take that all day long. But if you just say you suck, you know, it's like, okay, well, you didn't watch the movie. And so to the fans who did and those who connected with it, man, that's what it's all about. Star Trek is it's not just a TV show, okay? It's a culture. It's us. And if we're ever going to get to space, it's us that's going to do it. I think it's the Star Trek fandom. You know, we're pushing it. We're always keeping the sci-fi up on the edge. And when I grew up, Star Trek was very encouraging to other Star Trek fans. Fans were always encouraged. I'd never heard anyone say mean things to people before like today. So I'd like to get back to that, where we're always encouraging. We're always there for each other. We're a family, and Star Trek is never going to die. So.
You're right.
Well, let me bring out 2 points here. First of all, we've got comments from one young man here. Jason Hecht says you are totally adding value to Star Trek.
Jason.
Thank you. Number two, we have a member of our studio group, John Sims, who has produced and retrofitted our sets to look like a Pike era Enterprise. And so we could do that. And he also built some amazing props, including the laser pistol and the acrylic communicator, of which I have the prototype of. So you never know. There's a place in Kingsland, Georgia, where you could possibly do your next one.
No, well, you know, we built these sets because I needed to be able to use them, you know, my way. I needed to be able to destroy them if I needed to, and I didn't want to harm someone else's. But yeah, these guys built them perfectly for me, but they are flimsy. And they you know, I was listening to William Shatner on the Star Trek cruise about 6 months ago, and he randomly brought up that the original series sets were always falling apart. that they were flimsy. So that made me feel like, well, ours aren't so bad. Then they're definitely matching the original series. But yeah, next time if I don't rebuild them, yeah, I would definitely use pre-existing sets because that would cut the budget, way down. So yeah,
Well,
maybe we can.
You have a place is all we can tell you is you have
Thanks.
a place.
You guys have a place with me too.
Well, thank you. I want to come to your living room is
You're
where I
welcome.
want to go.
Oh yeah, do you see behind me here? You see behind me here?
This is
this is some of my Mego collection. Yeah, Star Trek, Mego Star Trek. If you're a kid in the '70s, you know what Mego Star Trek was, and Planet of the Apes and stuff like that. So I just like to collect them. But yeah, you're welcome. Come on over. We'll watch Star Trek.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We'll figure it all
We're
out.
gonna do it.
We're gonna figure it all out.
right,
Well, first of all, thank you. Scott he's on, but he never
he's on, but
he hasn't come back on.
I'm
love
trying.
you, Scott.
Hold on.
All right.
I hear a voice in the
Hold on.
distance. Scott,
He's
follow
kind
my
of
voice.
on.
Scott, follow my voice. Go towards
Well,
the light.
the other thing to say about some of the things you said about bringing fans into the fold and putting them into your film, which is something that I do as well, because I think it's not just important, but Star Trek has always been about inclusion.
Oh yes.
And there's a lot of people now that believe in exclusion.
That is yeah.
But
yeah.
But what you've done, what you're doing, what you've done, the love that you guys put into it, Scott, that ship is. I'm glad you came back. I'm glad you came back because I honestly don't know that I could tell the difference between that and the one that they filmed at Paramount because
it's true.
It's just beautiful. You built it perfectly.
I wish you could see it in person. It's even more. It's a picture of it behind you, and your picture there is actually the miniature. So
yes, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, my phone ran out of antimatter there, so
that's okay, man. That's okay. Well, don't mix it with the matter.
I just imagine you jumping out of the Jeffries tube and hitting the intercom and saying, "Try her now, Mr. Kyle."
That was pretty much.
Oh my
pretty
goodness.
much. Had to run and get another.
Hey Scott, did you have
battery for the
anything
phone.
you wanted to say, buddy? You want to say anything? Scott?
But just a few things with both the model and the dry dock. The fun thing with the dry dock is that what we tried to do with the dry dock was
perfect dry dock, by the way, Scott.
We took the NX-01 and then we took the dry dock and basically cut it in half, vertically, and then we added another section in that would accommodate the secondary hull. So that it was kind of an evolution from, let's say, from Enterprise into, prior to TOS. And that's kind of what we.
And it looks like a precursor to the motion picture. It looks, to me, it looks like it's before the motion picture. It's perfect, an evolution.
Well, there's a lot of talent in your group. There's no question about it.
There is.
It's a lot of talent. Good actors, good story. Real Star Trek. You don't see a whole lot of real Star Trek anymore.
No, I know.
People try. Sometimes they succeed. Sometimes they don't. New Star Trek.
It's the heart that matters to me.
Yeah.
New Star Trek's different, but the heart of the fans is there. And when they make their Star Trek fan films, I am able to look past any deficiencies and, see what they meant for you to see, what they hoped you'd see, because not everybody has that technical ability. But they got something, that drive to go do it. And instead of sitting at home and thinking about it, they actually went and did it. And it doesn't matter at the end. It's what their heart. They are Star Trek.
I agree. And just because there are people, and like I said, I've done several films, fan films, and people, sometimes they're just nasty. And you want to just say, then do one yourself, man. Do one yourself.
Yeah, I know. But that's the answer that it comes to mind first, is to say that. But
you don't.
It's almost like I'm acknowledging them. No, yeah, because I don't want to even validate what they're saying with an answer.
Right.
It's like it's taking my time away from me, so I just ignore it.
I get it, and that's.
But some fans don't. Some fans don't. Some fans actually get discouraged by those comments, and that does bother me. If you're only going to take someone down, don't say anything. Let them alone. They're not harming you. They tried their best, and they gave you a free product, something for free. If somebody made you a gift and handed it to you, are you going to look at it and say, "Oh, that sucked"? No, it's like you say at least be nice, and tell them something. But no, there are some meanness, but 95%, and I think it's 95% because we have 17,000 positive and 1,000 thumbs down on YouTube. So whatever the ratio that is, we are in the positive people that get it. And so those few that don't, they don't get it. They can't see the movie for what it is. I'm not saying that because the movie's awesome and I'm trying to praise it and I'm the best director. It's not like that. It's obviously people have connected with it and you can't, and you're in the small minority. And I wish you could, because we want to take everybody with us, but you're not allowing yourself to see past something. And I don't know what it is, and I don't have time to figure that part out. I hit about 90%, and that's way better than I thought I would. I was thinking about 75%. So I'm really happy with what we got.
Well,
the thing that I've learned over all these years of working on those sets and working on many films is how much of a friendship we all have and how much fun we have. And in the end, if you have a little technical glitch or something creaks or groans when you're walking on it, it doesn't matter. We produce something to keep the flame alive for Star Trek. We love what we're doing, and hopefully it comes right out on screen to those people. Yours, because my wife and I watched it last night on the big TV instead of the little computer. It came right out.
Oh, good for you. Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you're able to connect. That's what it's all about. I wanted to take one last trip, even if I never can again, to the way I used to feel about Star Trek, the way it used to be for me. And that's what I was trying to do here. And I think we got it. I'm the only person that can't watch it for the first time, because I'd seen it 1,000 times by the time it was finished. But the gift that I get is I get to watch the fans and see their responses and see how it affects them. And that's just as good, I guess. It's fun to do that for people. And I love Star Trek fans, and they're the best people ever. They're the best people in the world. They're always there, and I love them.
Absolutely. Scott, where are you located?
I'm in Atlanta.
So you guys need to get some of your local people and make a field trip. That's what you got to do down to Kingsland, Georgia. You got it, or in some cases right up to Kingsland, Georgia.
Sure.
But you have to make a.
We're going to come visit.
We would be down, but we would definitely love to come see.
Oh, we're going to do it.
Yeah, you tell me you tell me the day, the time, the minute, the hour.
November 13th at 4:32 p.m. No, I'm just kidding.
But
we will make a trip. What we'll do is I'll get my minivan and we'll get as many people as want to go, and we'll go visit soon, very soon.
I would love that. Yeah. I would love.
Matt would love to come down and everything else like that.
Let's do it.
And you never know if you need anything, Bill. We may bring the tools and see what we can do.
Well, I've got a captain's chair.
All right, Matt. We'll build an 11-foot miniature, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I've got a captain's chair you can help repair. From all the butts that have sat in it. So
that's what happens. That's true. That's true. Captain's chairs get worn down quickly.
Yeah, we can see. I actually wound up accidentally breaking one of the captain's chairs on the Axonar set.
Good man. Good man.
Captain's chair is the only thing I kept. It's the only thing I kept. It's right here. The captain's chair is right there. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
There. The captain's chair.
Yep.
Yeah, It's in my collectibles room. It's the only thing I kept was the chair. I wish I would have kept more, but I wasn't going to give that up. No way. And the Enterprise. I kept the 11-foot Enterprise.
Yeah, I wouldn't give those up for the world.
No.
Who's got the shuttlecraft?
The shuttle bay, Scott. The shuttle bay, Scott.
The shuttlecraft is at Matt. The two shuttlecrafts are at Matt's. The shuttle bay is in my living room, and
let's see it, Scott.
I am going to
big treat. You can almost get inside this
see
thing.
what I can.
Our first assistant director, Emoto, can get inside this. She's small enough. she's strong though. Okay, Scott.
Take a look here.
Watch this.
Oh my God.
It's huge. Put something for scale. Put like something for scale, a quarter or something. Can you?
Oh.
Just to show. This thing's massive.
Oh,
he's got a big house too. He's still walking.
He is.
There you go. Here's
anything.
There's a Hot Wheel. How's that?
There you go.
Oh man, that's about the size of a shuttlecraft.
It is.
Wow, that's great. I think maybe the next film should be the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and put somebody in there.
We
We'll do that.
joke that Emoto will definitely can fit in here.
Emoto's our first assistant director, and she must be 5'2" or 3. I'm not trying to say she's short. I'm just saying she was small, but she was powerful, and she had my back. She was one of the best. She helped make this movie. So
Well, I would say on the Raising Enterprise group that I have a lot of these pictures in, I have a picture of Matt. He has actually managed to crawl when we were installing the observation deck.
Yeah,
He crawled in and he would have to put it up against the curved wall while I screwed it from the back. But as soon as he crawled in there, he was like, "Okay, go ahead." I said, "Hold on, I got to get a picture." So I've got a picture of Matt, and he's literally like in a Jeffries tube, but just double bay.
Matt in a Jeffries tube.
Yeah, and so you guys can see. So hopefully everyone's really enjoying this picture here. So
I'm loving it.
It is actual. I mean, it is screen accurate.
Yeah, we were actually going to bring this down to Wonderfest this year, but Wonderfest got canceled. So
yeah, Corona.
It was really neat. We had one fantastic modeler. His name's Bill Krause, and he kind of inspired me to see about bringing this to Wonderfest. And then when I put a picture up on the Wonderfest group, said Bill contacted me directly and said, "Hey, is it okay if I could bring some 1/24 scale shuttle, shuttles that I can get a picture in the shuttle bay?" So kind of explained to him that he was kind of the idea that he was the inspiration of why I thought of bringing it to begin with.
Beautiful, man. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. So
well, you look at now TOS remastered versions, right? And that's identical to the scene you would see even in
the newer ones.
Yeah.
Because they've remastered it twice, from what I can remember. And the first remastering, it was awful. The shuttlecraft the way it flew was weird, and things were not detailed enough. But they've gone back and redone some of the things, and then now it looks photorealistic, like the Enterprise going past. So I have a lot less problem with it than I did, because it went backwards to me. It went less quality at first. And then I guess they realized that this is too important to not get a real team on. And they've done some really great work with the new remastered versions of TOS.
I'm afraid to see where Scott's going now.
He's going to put the dome on the end.
I'm going to have a little bit of fun with you guys. And I'm actually going to go ahead, because this entire shuttle bay comes apart. So we can shoot from all different directions. So what I did is, and we have an open back and a solid back. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you a view of inside the
I wish I could shrink myself down and live in it.
Yeah. So
maybe in the Enterprise that we built.
Give you a little, imagine if you guys were inside, so see what that feels like.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's a good angle. That is a crazy good angle. And he put the doors on the end, the gull wing doors, or clamshell.
Yeah. Yeah, we have an open. There's open doors and closed doors, so we actually just swap them out. And then for the open and closing, that part has to get CG'd. But the
right.
The whole rest of it is rather fun to do.
You would never know that.
Leave it to Star Trek fans, though.
Yeah.
I was saying, leave it to Star Trek fans till we were going to say goodbye, and we open a whole new conversation.
Absolutely,
we're still going strong.
About. That's what this is all about. I was going to say, you would never know that was a model. You would never know that was a model.
No.
And I don't know if you guys can see how big this is, compared to.
Wow.
And the lights, and it's not just the actual model itself, but it's where he had to place lights and he had to wire these things and everything, and he did it so perfectly. Scott, you're a wizard, man.
He is a wizard. That is absolutely stunning.
He is.
We try.
It is.
Absolutely. It's just crazy what you guys have done. It's just crazy to think about. But now, having seen the behind the scenes, again, I started by saying that people don't know what goes into making a film. And when somebody writes you and says, geez, that sucks. Well, look at what we did, man. I mean, it took you 5 years or 7 years, and you put out a product it's terrific. You don't like it? Then
thank you.
Too bad.
Yeah. Why'd you watch it? If you didn't like it, turn it off.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, most people do like it, and those are the people that I made it for, and those are my friends. Everyone that is a Star Trek fan is an instant friend because we click. We already know the same things, and it's just a family. I love it.
Well, you've
Excellent.
joined an interesting family because we are some of the few people who've actually built these sets. We know what it takes to do. We know what it takes to shoot
I
on
have
them.
mad respect.
And
Oh, yeah.
you got my respect for having built this stuff. And also,
Well,
I
thank
didn't
you.
hear the floor on the bridge creak. So how did you manage that? It creaked on the original,
It
and ours
did,
creaks in
though.
the same place.
I know.
I can tell you that.
It did. Occasionally, when Robert April's walking across, you'll hear his feet, and I was gonna take that out. I thought, no, that went on. And then I was watching the original series, and I heard Spock's feet, and I said, that's staying in. Save me some effects I had to fix. Wait, Scott, did you say you had something?
During stuff like the transporter floor, I was actually up there on top taking steps all around, and whenever it creaked, we had someone underneath that was actually putting in braces.
Oh, to put a little, brace. I remember that. Yeah.
We spent about 3 hours working a lot of those creaks out. Just so whenever we heard a creak, we had a support structure, and we did.
Been there, done that. Yep,
That's
did that too on ours, on our bridge
Yeah.
especially.
Oh, yeah.
People were underneath and putting in shims. Yes.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
That's right. We all go through the same process to get to the result. It's logical.
It's exactly right.
Yes.
You're exactly right.
Well,
Well, guys, this has been
all right,
fun.
Ray.
This has been
It is fun. It really is.
And you guys are wizards. Scott, I'm glad you joined us.
I am
really
too.
am.
You had
And
an extra battery.
That's true. Well, you know.
it doesn't matter. Listen, we're not in the 24th century yet. So,
No.
we can't
yeah.
power these things with dilithium, but
I know.
it happens. But, to see what you guys have built, to see what you guys have produced, to see it up close. I mean,
Oh.
you see it in the film, and again, it's part of the film, which is great.
It is.
But now you look at it in your living room, Ken, and
Right,
in
right,
your wherever you have it, Scott.
His
But
living room.
to see it
Uh-huh.
in full scale like that, looks to me like it's the size of a Mark II photon torpedo. But that's
Yeah, it does actually. It is about half that.
off.
No, not far off.
But this was a lot of fun. We've
glad.
had a
Thanks,
lot of
Ray.
people. We've had a lot of people on today making comments.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Lots of hearts, lots of thumbs up.
Well, that's good. I really appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah,
It's not fair.
Yeah. And for you guys, and also for everybody who's online, this will go up on YouTube probably in a couple of days. I usually do some edits because Zoom is a little funky sometimes with videos and sound and things like that. So
that's fine.
So I'll clean that up.
Awesome.
I have a feeling, by the time.
Well, can I throw in a shameless plug here, guys?
Yes.
All right. One of our guests, one of our folks that have come to visit is Jack McDevitt, a Nebula Award-winning science fiction writer, and he's visited the sets a few times. Well, bless his soul, he actually wrote a short story that's in this month's Asimov magazine, which actually has the neutral zone as part of the plot.
What?
And the story is called Return to Glory. So run out to your bookstore, wear your mask, and buy Asimov magazine. And I met Asimov himself at a Star Trek convention in New York. So this is cool to be holding one of his magazines, even though he's gone. And it's a really fun story. I know Ray has read it, so have I. So that's my shameless plug.
I'm on it. I will watch it. And I'll buy for sure. I love science fiction, and the science fiction is the only genre that can do anything.
That's a perfect statement for science fiction. Perfect statement. Perfect statement. You still with us, Kenny? I wasn't sure. You're locked out there. Okay.
Thank you, Ray.
You're doing just fine.
Yeah, I'm here. I see you guys. Yes.
All right. Okay. So again, a lot of fun. I do a bunch of these things, and I usually have fun, but this one was a lot of fun. And
I'm glad.
It was very informative. I think you help bring to light what it takes to make a film. We talk about films that are already made sometimes.
It's true.
But here you guys are saying, this is what we had to do. This is how long it took. We had to fund it ourselves. We had to do this. And we bring in the fans, and
Hmm.
Not
That's right.
everybody can say that. Not everybody can say that.
That's nice. So thank you, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, you guys really deserve a lot of credit for having done this.
Well, yeah.
And your sets are beautiful. Your sets are just beautiful. So,
Well, thank you. Well, we wanted to honor Star Trek. That's all we wanted to do, and I think we did. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to play our end credits. Then we'll
Okay.
go off the air. All right. Anything else you
Okay.
guys want to do? Scott, thank you. Anything you want to add?
No, just thank you for having us. And hopefully by the time you see this, we'll have passed that 1 million mark in views on YouTube.
I know it's a milestone.
We're going to try to we're going to try to help make that happen, man. We're going to try to help make that happen. All right. So
well, I've already said goodbye, so I'll just say, live long and peace and long life. And I hope that everyone gets through this coronavirus,
absolutely, absolutely. There's a phrase that I heard several months ago now, I guess. And there are a lot of people who are kind of shuttered in their homes and, are alone. And someone made the remark, if you can't find the light, be the light.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And I think, what you guys have done really helps people. I think it helps.
I hope so.
And so congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Want to meet you guys in person.
Sure.
We'll get you there.
Okay.
So let me do our end credits, and we will say
you guys
goodnight
later.
to
Bye,
everyone.
Scott.